First, let me please address Professor Akimoto. So, Professor Akimoto, you have been part of the ENet since its inception more than 2 decades ago. In fact, you played an important role in establishing the ENet. You're also one of the lead authors of the recent publication, Development of Science and Policy Related to Acid Deposition in East Asia Over 30 Years. It highlighted an interesting observation that Europe and North America have shown decreasing patterns in the emissions of SO2 and NOx from the 1970s onwards, whereas in East Asia, the decreasing trend in the emissions levels of both were seen only from 2010 onwards only. We would love to know from your perspective, this first question is, how does East Asia compare with other regions in terms of the impacts of acid deposition levels in the forests, inland waterways, crops, etc.? So over to you to share a little bit more of your thinking and reflections on that. Over to you, Professor.
Yeah, thank you for this. My name is Hajime Akimoto, and yeah, I'd like to answer to the best of my knowledge to the questions. The first, yeah, I have the same question. Why the Northeast Asia or Southeast Asia, including this area, even if such a deposition of acid is so high, it's much higher than the Europe or Northeast Asia, Northeast America, and North America. But the real ecological damage of forest and some aquatic water, biota, but not so clearly seen as compared to the other world. So in my the review paper just introduced, I looked for not only the ENet data but also all the scientific journal papers, how they interpret those kind of questions. And of course, the answer is not so clear, but what we can find is for the forest damage, there have been some limited area of forest or forest trees was damage has been reported mainly in China, Japan, and Korea. And but the cause of such a forest damage is, as far as the research papers says, partly due to acid fog and also some pests or insects, those making some damage, and some the combined effect of those. So we expect the acidification of the soil due to the acid deposition should be, or it would be, one of the major cause of the forest damage. But some forest soil acidification has been reported, but that's not linked to the forest damage directly. So we still do not know the real cause why the forest damage is not so evident in this area. But I'm not expertise in this forest or tree damage field, but what we learned is even if in Europe so many trees damage has been reported in 20 or 30 years ago, but even if in Europe the real cause of the forest damage has not been clearly identified, they interpreted some combination between the acid deposition, ozone pollution, and some climate damage, and that's I think said it's a present scientific status of the forest damage. And for the aquatic water acidification, it's also it's some rivers, particularly rivers, not lakes. Rivers in some Japan and some other parts of the East Asia, some acidification, slightly acidified river water has been reported in the ENet and some other papers. But no aquatic, some fish population, the decrease of fish population or other aquatic biotas populations has not been reported to be decreased. It's quite different from the, in particularly in northern part of Europe, the Scandinavian part, most of fish is distinct, and also in some effect has been reported in Canada. But why not in East Asia? So one of the reason is the soils in East Asia has more buffering capacity because of it's more rich in calcium carbonate and other components. So even if the acid deposition of acids is higher than the other part of the world, the real acidification of the water or soil is not as distinct as in the other part of the world. And also the particularly aquatic water, their initial pH is pretty high. pH is nearly 8 or something like that. So if acidification toward the pH 6, it's not low enough to make a clear damage to the fish population directly. So maybe I'm also not the specialist in this field, but I can imagine that such a soil buffering capacity may prevent the decline of the fish or other biotas population in aquatic water in East Asia. That's kind of things are my understanding.